Rescue teams have retrieved around 60 bodies from under the rubble in the Shejaiya neighbourhood of Gaza City. That's according to officials in the Hamas-run territory. Gaza's civil defence agency said the discovery came just hours after Israeli troops withdrew from the area. Images from the site showed the extent of the destruction. Residents told the AFP news agency that they returned to find nearly all their homes had been demolished. Israel's military says it has now completed its two-week mission in Shejaiya and that its forces have moved on to other parts of Gaza City. Let's speak now to DW's senior international correspondent, Fanny, who joins us now from Jerusalem. Fanny, tell us more about this, about the Israeli offensive on Gaza City.
We have definitely seen a renewed offensive by Israel this week in Gaza City specifically. The people on the ground describe as one of the fiercest weeks in this entire war. And that's been going on for more than 9 months. In fact, the war entered its 10 months just a few days ago. And of course, there's this lingering question, why is there this focus on Gaza City? Because most parts of it, at least that's the impression that Israel made a couple of months ago, were deemed to be cleared of Hamas militants. But Israel says that they need to dismantle whatever the remaining capabilities of Hamas militants are in that region. So that clearly indicates that possibly there's been a regrouping of Hamas militants. And if there wasn't, that there's still infrastructure in there, like tunnels, but any sort of infrastructure that helps them to communicate and finance their ongoing attacks also against Israel in Gaza Strip against Israeli soldiers. And while this is going, of course, the question there is, how should people, all the hundreds of thousands who have returned to Gaza City now, leave towards the south? Because they've been relocated over and over again, and this is obviously an active war zone.
Fanny, outside of Gaza City, the intense fighting across the Strip is still continuing. Tell us a bit more about that.
Exactly, and this is very, very important to mention that the fighting is not only in the north, not only in Gaza City, but in central Gaza, in the south, Rafah, Khan Yunis, etc. So we are speaking about more than 2 million people, roughly 2.1 million people who are on the move pretty much for the past more than 9 months. And the question is really, if you drop leaflets like Israel did on Wednesday on the citizens of Gaza City, urging them to leave, declaring Gaza City a combat zone, where they should go to and how should they leave. We are not only talking about people who have been traumatized, who are exhausted, but we are also speaking about people who simply cannot leave, about the elderly, about children. So all of that combined really leaves, in fact, a lot of human rights organizations at this point speechless. They're struggling to find words to describe the devastating humanitarian situation on the ground, while there is the question, what about the political implications of the renewed offensive in the north, for example, while also bombardment is ongoing in other parts of Gaza Strip? Hamas militants have indicated and said that all the talks that are ongoing right now with regard to a potential ceasefire agreement or a framework towards it could be put back on square one, jeopardizing the entire talks that are currently ongoing.
Yeah, let's talk a bit more about that, Fanny. As you say, ceasefire talks are ongoing. Is there any progress that's being made?
The very fact that Egyptian negotiators and Israeli negotiators are talking right now as they're speaking, of course, can be seen as a progress because talks are ongoing. Well, they started in Doha in Qatar. They are now in Egypt. The key mediators, obviously, are Qatar and Egypt in this. But obviously, it remains to be seen what the results of the negotiations are and whether they're going to be, in fact, put into action. That depends a lot on the trust of the people involved and the negotiators involved, and specifically of Hamas militants and Israel involved. Has to be heard in the future. We do not know yet.
DW Senior International Correspondent Fanny there in Jerusalem. Fanny, thank you.